Welcome to People First Builders, celebrating leaders in construction who build success through their people. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, your host. I'm the CEO of Discover.ai, a performance hiring software helping small and mid-sized AEC companies solve their hardest problem, people. We help people first leaders install and execute repeatable talent acquisition systems that drive business results by hiring top performers, lowering turnover, and building world-class company cultures. Stick around to the end and you can learn more about how to become a guest on our podcast and share your story with the world. Welcome to the People First Builders podcast. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, and today I have a really interesting guest, Uri Pearl from Nealon Insulation. And Uri, you're the owner of Nealon Insulation. You guys are a fast-growing home services company in Connecticut, and you're built on this people first philosophy. So I'm so glad to have you here and talk about that. Despite you not having a traditional background in construction, you found yourself now leading a kind of a trade in a construction-oriented company here. You had been in business operations, capital markets, and startups. You had co-founder of a company called Catch, which can't wait to hear a little bit about that, and that it had been acquired. You were a first sergeant in the Israeli Defense Special Forces, so that's pretty cool, interesting. So, you know, all of these things have led you to create a leadership discipline, a team first mindset, and that is now guiding how you're operating business. And just last year, you jumped into the construction industry. So, I'm really curious how your diverse background has led you to this business. Tell us a little bit about that background. Give us a little more color to what I just introduced you about there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fletcher, thanks so much for having me on. Let's take it back. So first off, when I had seen your podcast, People First, doing what I'm doing now and coming from that perspective, everything just felt so validating watching your videos and just thinking, wow, oh my God, this makes so much sense. So to take it back, like you mentioned, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, went to college, studied economics there, didn't know what I wanted to do with that, ended up serving in the military. And then from there, just started networking and figuring out what I wanted to do. And I got into technology in the software space. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a software engineer, but I was interested in it just like, everyone else around that time and still.
A lot sexier than construction.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now I can kind of weigh the two, and I think construction is a little bit cooler, but with that perspective, I guess I can say that. I found myself in the technology sector, and I met two good friends at a company, and we broke off and started our own company called Catch, which you mentioned, with the mission of protecting older adults from cyber scams. So we used AI when AI was just coming out. This was a few years ago, to detect scams in emails and warn people before they open it of the scam to, hopefully save them money.
So my mother can plug in something and it'll say, hey, this is questionable. You should ignore it.
Exactly. That's the whole idea behind it. And obviously starting a company proved to be extremely challenging and also extremely educational. And we worked on it for about a year and a half, 2 years, and we had another legacy company want to buy the software, and we figured, why not just merge, essentially? Yeah. And they hired the whole team and worked there for about 6 months, and that experience going back to having management reminded me why I always wanted to be going out myself in the first place. I was a little bit tired of software. Like I said, I'm not a software engineer. I was more on the business side, more of the sales side. Yeah. And I missed the people. Software isn't, there's obviously people, there's teams, but it's not as people intensive as some other more tangible industries, such as construction. And so I just started to explore. Other types of industries, other types of businesses, and looked for businesses that were listed for sale There's this big movement now called ETA, entrepreneurship through acquisition,
Yeah.
where, a lot of people are retiring and they have these small businesses that are great businesses. They're lucrative and have low obsolescence, and, they need to be taken over and taken to the next level. And I found one of those in Nealon Insulation in Eastern Connecticut. And I just fell in love. I fell in love with the seller. I fell in love with the business. And I found myself in an industry that I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
But I figured, you know what, I'll figure it out as I go. And that was about a year and a half ago. And so here we are now.
So did you compare? I mean, you found Nealon and that you obviously fell in love with it, but did you have some other hot prospects? Like, I'm curious what you were comparing it against when you were making this decision to jump in.
Yeah, it's a great question. I was looking at a lot of things. I mean, everything from laundromats are, a classic one. Car washes are a classic one. I was looking at like metal hauling businesses, junk lugging. I was looking at, this one stuck out. I thought it was actually interesting at the time. Parking lot painting. Who paints the parking lots? Yeah, exactly.
I've been going, yeah.
I was looking at all of those kinds. In fact, construction, I had felt like, because of the expertise required, that wasn't something I was going to go into.
So it wasn't really in your target list then?
It wasn't in the target. This was more of something that fell in my lap, and I figured, you know what, I'll take a meeting. Yeah. I didn't know that meeting would lead to here, but it did.
So what, from that first meeting, what's happened so far, and tell us a little bit about that journey.
Sure. I mean, so let me tell you about the company itself.
Yeah.
It's called Nealon Insulation. Obviously specializes in insulation, but really all that is optimizing homeowners, a home's energy efficiency, comfort, health, and durability.
Okay.
4 super important things for any homeowner.
Yeah.
And it's been operating for 50 years, all the way since the 70s, was passed down a couple generations. And when I found it, it had been contracted. It had been made smaller for the previous owners, just quality of life. But it had such a strong foundation, such a strong reputation, and was such a strong seed to build and grow from. And the only reason I was really able to do it and feel confident doing it is because the seller still wanted to be in the business. He just didn't want to own the business, and he didn't want to grow the business. So I was able to leverage his incredible expertise in the industry, and he's still with the team.
And you're doing mostly like residential kind of revamp or refresh or improvement of the insulation in a house, for example. I would assume then that helps more energy, burn less oil, use less natural gas, use less AC, that kind of thing. And
exactly. So let's take it back to the basics. Insulation essentially resists the movement of heat, right? They talk about R value. The R stands for resistance, heat resistance. So when you have more insulation in your home, then it holds more heat in the winter and doesn't escape. So you use less heat, just like you said, less energy, just like you said. And in the summer,
so many new technologies, right? I think around this, right? I mean, the old, if you have an old house from the early 1900s or even in the 60s, right? The insulation quality maybe wasn't as effective as what you can go and replace it with today or something, right?
Or even non-existent. I mean, a lot of buildings from the 50s, they got nothing. Yeah. So that's our specialty, is upgrading existing homes. And that's probably, I'd say, 80% of our business, if not more. But we also do new home construction.
Okay.
So ground up, we'll go in and insulate those to code, as well as commercial. We'll do some commercial buildings as well, just because it's a similar expertise, and we can do it.
So in the show notes, it sounds like when you acquired the business, there was just a couple of people in it then at that point, and you've been able to grow it so far pretty successfully. What's been that journey to grow and add more people to an existing business, and to grow that quickly? That can be a challenge to find them, to make sure they're going to be good and that they stick around. And so what were the things that you've been doing to successfully do that while you're, trying to grow quickly? And that's a lot of people to add. I mean, you tripled the size of the organization. That can make it difficult for people to get along, to teach them how to do the job. I mean, there's a lot of pitfalls when companies grow quickly, right?
Fletcher, you nailed it on the head. I don't think there's anything else I can add to that. But no, I'll expand a little bit, but absolutely. So I came into the business, like I said, it was contracted. We made it very small for quality of life, but it had so much potential to grow. I mean, he was turning away business. And I walked in and there were three techs because a tech had actually left the week before I came in. And for someone in construction and a trade, specifically a trade, especially that small, people are important.
Yeah.
But because they know the work themselves and because they can do the work themselves, the people are not end all be all. The people are replaceable because I have myself in my brain. However, for me, I had no industry experience. I had no skills. I could not do the work myself. The people were everything to me.
Yeah.
So I knew that I had to focus 100% of my efforts and focus on the people, along with obviously learning the industry. But it was all about, in terms of investment, it was all about the people.
Yeah, you couldn't afford to lose them because you couldn't go do the work yourself, right?
I wouldn't have a business. There wouldn't be a business without them.
Yeah.
So luckily, the people that we did have were incredible people. Every single one of them were incredible. But I had to, I came from the office knowledge world and I had to learn how to navigate this new world with these different people that are incredible people. But that comes with a different type of hiring process. And to your point, it's about learning retention.
Yeah.
How do we attract, recruit, and retain the best people?
Yeah. So what did you do? What were some of the things? Yeah. When you started hiring, did you run into any hiccups there, or what kind of process have you landed on?
So at first it was just like throwing darts at a dart, went on Indeed because, that's a platform.
Where you go. Yeah.
That's where you go, and just started interviewing people. I had a phone screen of just questions I made up and thought, let's try them out, trial and error a little bit. Would bring people in for interviews. And not only did it take a ton of my time, but I was finding all the wrong people. Luckily I managed to find a couple good people through that, but it took a ton of time.
Yeah.
And a lot of trial and error. I lost, I brought some bad people in and then had to get them out. So I refined it a little bit by adding another step in the process, which was written questions and a personality test.
Nice.
Which I've learned is not industry standard, but what it did for me was really filter out the wrong people in order to get the right people on the bus, right? Jim Collins, said of Good to Great said it best. Step one, get the right people on the bus. And that was my full focus. So it was revamping that hiring process. So getting the right people on the bus and then figuring out, okay, how do I retain them and how do I motivate them?
Yeah.
So that we're all aligned.
So you added in written questions and a personality test. I think people, I would imagine you had a step before that where you got really clear about who you were looking for. Because without that, right, adding which questions you ask, right? What personality type are you looking for, right? Those are still a bit of a mystery. And so did you go through a process there where because at first you're throwing darts, you're like, okay, you got a resume, you're calling people, you're just kind of winging it, right? And maybe it didn't work as well as you'd like, but how did you get this like clarity around what you were looking for? What attributes you were looking for in a person?
It's a great question. I would say number one, integrity.
Okay.
A person with integrity and honesty that comes with that.
How did you define that? That's always a fascinating topic for me because, I think you'd survey most business owners or leaders, period. They'd say, "Oh, I need people with integrity." Nobody would, discount that. But what was your definition of that?
Yeah, like you said, it would be different for everyone. The way that I define it, which is maybe even too broadly speaking, but it's a person who does the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. And it's hard even for people with integrity to think, well, why am I doing something the right thing just because it's the right thing? But that's just what you do.
Yeah. Or I've heard people call that similar ways, even when nobody's looking. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a great way to put it as well. Doing the right thing even when no one's looking.
Yeah. Same thing. You're saying the same thing. It's just there's an interesting twist on that. Yeah. So so you identify integrity and honesty as being a really important attribute. What else did you identify?
And ambition.
Okay.
I want people that not only want to not only do the right thing, but want to succeed in everything they do. want to be the best version of themselves
Yeah.
and make everyone around them the best version of themselves.
And how do you do that with a service tech, right? I think this is like one of the myths around. I think it's a bit more of a myth than blocker, right? You find tradespeople, a lot of times tradespeople, they don't really want to do anything else other than hammer nails or, service a customer and do the same thing kind of every day. But those people still are looking to grow and to get better, right? So where's that, like, they don't necessarily want to become the CEO of a company, right? They want to just continue to do their trade, their craft really, really well. How do you identify that, or how do you deal with that difference in, this is not like you were not, a fast track to being a kingpin of insulation or something.
Great question. Number one, identify what kind of person they are. What kind of ambition is it? Some people it is, I want to grow and be the CEO, or I want to grow and run my own location and learn everything I can and master this. And some people it is, I just want to, do my job to the best of my ability, but I'm happy doing my specific task. I don't need to, grow. I don't need to be a leader. I love what I do and I want to do it to the best of my ability. So there's two different types of those people. So number one, you have to identify. And number two, you have to unleash the best version of themselves, whether it is making that one guy into the CEO and that other guy helping him be the best possible service tech he can be.
Yeah. So yeah, fostering it one way or the other. And I would imagine for the people who want to grow and become a leader, sometimes those opportunities aren't available within organizations. How do you face that? How do you deal with that challenge? Are you okay with that? Or are you trying to create those opportunities, or both,
So for us, it kind of just works out because we're at a stage where we're in rocket ship mode. We are growing to that. We want multiple locations. We want more leadership. We want more managers. So there are those opportunities, and that's something that we're able to offer to people. And that's a reputation that we're also building for people that come on board is, there are growth opportunities here. You're not going to be stagnant.
Yeah. You hear this concept of you're not growing, you're dying, right? Type concept. And I hear this a lot from really successful leaders is they're growing in order to create opportunities for the people inside of their organization, right? If they stayed stagnant and they only stayed a 4-person operation, some of those people may have to cycle out because there's nowhere for them to grow to, right? If they're that more ambitious, they want to become a leader, they want to become a GM or take on another role, then, well, we're not growing, so that role is never going to be an opportunity. So it sort of forces an organization to grow, right? To get bigger, to add more customers, to become add more locations, right? So that you can offer these opportunities to people. It's like almost becomes your obligation to grow now, right?
That's a great way to put it. I haven't even thought about it like that, but that's a great way to put it. If your priority is the people, then it's your responsibility as a business leader to grow the company so that they can experience that growth as well.
Yeah, create growth opportunities for them, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Were there any other attributes that you identified then that you were looking for? That's as simple as, keep it simple. The two really important things, that's pretty good. Did they have to have any experience in,
I focused all on intangibles. The experience is, common sense.
Yeah.
You got to have common sense. You got to have the ability to learn. You have to have the ability to learn it. I don't care what experience you had. I had no experience.
Yeah.
It's really the intangibles.
So did your next hires have no experience then in insulation necessarily? They did.
Yeah, I've been hiring with no experience, and we train on the job. And I would add sociability as well. Sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's like you mentioned in your introduction. You want to work with people who you want to come to work every day and enjoy what you're doing, have a laugh, while you're loading the trucks, jokes flying here and there. It just makes it a better place to work.
Yeah.
Better place to be.
So that sounds like that's part of your culture for sure. I mean, not every organization is that way necessarily. I'm not here to say one way is better, but I'd probably rather have a place where, you could be, have a little fun with your coworkers, right? But
Uh,
so that's
exactly.
interesting that you identified. So how long does it take you to get people from, okay, you've identified folks that seem to have the core intrinsic attributes of, say, integrity and motivation and the ability to learn, and seem to have a good sense of humor. Those are, like, say, the four big things that you're looking for in folks, but they know nothing about how to do your craft, right? So how long is it taking you to get them so that they are, fully up to speed or adding value, I guess?
Yeah, great question. If they have even if it's not installation, if they have some construction
Yeah.
experience, handyman experience, it'll probably take about 3 months,
Okay.
depending on just their, skill level. If they're coming in from scratch zero, it could take 6 to 12 months, which
Yeah.
we're willing to invest in.
Yeah. So that's an interesting mindset. I mean, I hear a lot of employers are like, I need somebody who has past experience in whatever it is that they're doing, right? So they're basically remitted to hiring from their competitors, right?
Yep.
When you say that, right? And depending on how big your market is for the craft or trade or thing that you do, right? Then the talent pool may be very limited at the end of the day. And that also means you haven't even applied your intangible test, right? How motivated and how much integrity these people have, their sense of humor, and their ability to learn. You've been able to apply those to these people because you've already narrowed the pool down to people who only have past direct experience in this work activity. Um, and I feel a lot of people are really resistant to investing in the people to spend 3 months to get somebody up to speed where they can run their own truck, or 6 to 12 months. How are you justifying that? Like, what does that mean to you to make that mindset shift to say, yeah, this is worth it to me to do that versus try to find folks from my competitor?
Yeah, you know, I think it's such an advantage to be able to create, almost like create and build your own people.
Yeah.
Like you touched on, if you're already narrowing it down to this very specific skill they have to have, then that means you are negotiating on the intangibles.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
just are.
Yeah.
On the integrity, for example, I would rather negotiate on the skills.
Yeah.
I can teach the skills. I can't teach integrity.
Yeah.
So the skills come. The skills are learnable, but I want to find the right people. And if I can create, an army of those types of people, it's a huge advantage in the industry. It just is. So I'm willing. I'm a long term thinker, and if you're able to do that, put that upfront investment, then long term you're going to win.
Yeah. But I imagine once the people get on the job, I mean, I always am a huge believer that as humans, we're looking for growth. And we've talked about that here in some different types of growth, but the growth comes in lots of different ways, right? When I learn a new skill, or I learned how to surf during COVID, I mean, it was extraordinarily challenging, but it was like a challenge every day. And I got better and better and better, right, over a period of time. And, that kept me engaged in life. Right. No, I have lots of reason to be engaged in life, but that was like a really big thing for me for a long time, right? Because it was a challenge and I was growing and I was getting better every day. And, it was a brand new thing to me, and it took me a lot longer to get good at it than if I had learned when I was 7, probably, right? Um, but I think that's an interesting thing that is a natural retainer of people because they are learning something new every day. And that person that takes 6 or 12 months become proficient, I mean, they're going to stick around because of that, right?
Exactly. And on top of that, so I agree. Just in terms of the human nature, the learning and the growth, and what you're attributing that to, right? The company where you did it. That's
Yeah.
one in terms of retention, and number two, from the leadership, is the framing of it. Like, take pride to create this sense of pride in
Yeah.
what you're doing. It's not just clock in, clock out. It's pride. It's what we're doing for these customers, making them more comfortable in their homes, saving them money. Really trying to help everyone see the why behind what they're doing, and not just I'm clocking in, clocking out, throwing some insulation up. No, we're doing important stuff here.
Yeah.
And if you get that in their mind along with the growth, then it changes everything, changes the whole
Yeah.
mindset.
Awesome. So just back to the written component there. Well, what kind of written questions did you have? How did you deliver those? I mean, some of the mechanics behind that. I'm curious.
Good question. So one is, why are you interested in this role?
Yeah.
Step back. The purpose of the questions, the first purpose of the question, like the number one priority of the questions, are just to filter out who's actually going to do this, who's going to put in the effort, because 90% of the people are going to see that and say, all right, I'm moving on to the next one. Good.
Yeah.
I don't want those people.
Yeah.
I want the people who are going to pass that first test of, I'm interested in this and I'm going to put in a little bit of effort. That already tells you so much about the candidate. The question themselves, I want to get a little bit out of it, but especially now with AI, you're not going to get that much out of it,
Yeah.
but even the fact that they might use AI is still resourceel to me.
Yeah.
So
At least they're trying.
Exactly. They're trying, they're putting in effort and they're being resourceful, which I also value as a characteristic.
That's an interesting perspective, though. I feel a lot of people, they're like, well, they're just lying on the resumes. They're using AI. They're using AI throughout the whole hiring process. But I feel the same way. It's like, well, at least they're, demonstrating the ability to use an innovative tool, right?
Well, ironically, when I see someone answer that's clearly not AI, to me, I'm like, come on, you could, like, that it's just poorly written.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, you've got the tools available that you could have. I'd rather you only do AI on that point.
Yeah.
So number one is why do you want this role? Why are you interested in this role?
Yeah.
Number two is what are 3 to 5 qualities of a great Nealon employee. And number 3 is, what are your career goals? So keep it super simple. And like I said, it's not even necessarily about the questions. You can learn about, through the questions as well, but it's more about the actual questions as a filter.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear a lot of people complain about no-shows to interviews and, maybe, filtering through a large number of candidates, and, that can be burdensome, and having to do a lot of interviews with people who aren't actually that interested. They're just punching a clock or they're just, trying to get their unemployment check or whatever it is. And they're not that serious. So this is a good tool. And I imagine, some people have another mindset of like, well, I want to get every single candidate through the process, and we're losing candidates by putting these barriers up. But yours is a little different there.
Quality over quantity,
Yeah.
and let's be as efficient as possible. So to give you a sense of the results, when we first implemented this, like I said, so before that, all the issues you just mentioned, a bunch of no-shows. I probably had to take like 40 calls, and 20 of them didn't even answer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the last round when we did this, we ended up only with 4 screen calls. We probably had 90 applications. I ended up with 4 screen calls after some rejections, just from the questions. 4 screen calls, hired 1, best hire by far that we've ever hired.
Yeah.
So not only did I have to spend a lot less time doing it, it did work to filter out the best possible candidate.
Yeah. 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 I think that's got to be the mindset, right? For folks, hey, implementing more hoops for people to jump through, especially in this talent market, these days. And also, if you're opening up the pool is much wider to looking for people with those intangible attributes, then you can be really effective at, adding multiple filtering layers into that process to ultimately deliver high quality candidates that you're interviewing, and you're interviewing far fewer. And I would assume the ones that jump through the hoops, they show up to the first interview and the second interview as well, right?
And jumping through the hoops is already such a signal of, want as an employee, someone who's willing to put in the effort. But even before you get to that process, you have to decide, the business leader has to decide, what kind of company do I want to be? Do I want to hire do I want bodies? Because if I want bodies, then this isn't the right hiring process for me. But if I want to be the high quality company, then you have to put that upfront investment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people operate out of fear and scarcity, right? And then, when there's turnover, it can be a downward spiral, right? Now I'm desperate. Now I'm going to be even, more. I'll just hire anybody willing to show up, kind of thing. And then that just creates this, trickle down effect where the turnover or the culture erodes and it just gets worse and worse, right? So it's a compounding problem when you run into that scenario, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
awesome. Um, uh, any other kind of final things that you feel like that have made a huge impact in your ability to retain people before we wrap it up?
Yeah, in terms of so like the initial challenge was getting people through the door. I actually felt pretty confident in terms of retaining, and I would narrow it down to number one, actually caring, not pretending to care, not having this idea of caring, but actually caring about each individual person. Granted, at my size, it's easier than a 50 or 100 person company, but building real relationships with each person, paying top of market plus perks, your margin's going to suffer, but you're in the long run, your margin and your profits and everything's going to do better. So it's really your short-term margin
Well,
is
and
going to suffer.
the headaches probably are a lot less, right?
Less headaches. I mean, it's exactly.
The service tech not show up on Monday to do the job that you sold, right? That is a nightmare compared to the other alternatives, right?
Yeah, I always say I don't want to save on people. I want to save on a lot of things. I want to save on materials, and I want to say, there are things I want to save on. I don't want to save on people. They are the most important asset in the company, and people forget that. They don't even think of them as assets.
Yeah.
So pay top of market and perks. Treat them like real humans and not numbers, which also gets harder as the company grows, but it's so important to make that a sticking point in the culture. And positive reinforcement. Warren Buffett used to say, Warren Buffett would say, criticize broadly and encourage or praise specifically, right?
Yeah.
So, giving that positive reinforcement, praising, it goes a long way. Even just verbal praise, it goes a really long way. People forget that, and it's so easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Just that positive call out in the team meeting about something good that somebody did can be really, really positive there. Yeah.
Exactly. Just keeping a positive atmosphere where people want to come into work. They're not scared. They want to come in and be positive no matter what's going on at home. And then there's the small things like stocking their favorite snacks and beverages. We have a sign on our fridge that says snack requests. We don't care what it is. They can ask for whatever they want and we stock it. Costs us money, but it makes it feel like home. It makes people happy to have their favorite snack when they're going to a project.
Yeah. So, and that's the demonstration of that you actually care. You care enough to find out and to, make that available and to go through that little extra effort to, have 10 different kinds of snacks versus one. Right.
Exactly.
Or none.
Right. Exactly. And just being specific with it. Like you said, asking them directly, not just broadly getting snacks that you think they'll like. So, and the ultimate goal is just unleashing the best version of themselves. Also, I'd say another one is giving extreme autonomy to the right people. It depends who they are, but to first identifying them, but the ones that should have autonomy, giving them autonomy, because that makes I know from, having previous managers, having autonomy makes such a big difference for the right people.
Yeah. Nobody likes to be micromanaged, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
awesome. Yeah. Well, how can folks get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can reach me at either my LinkedIn at Uri Pearl, which I think
we'll put in the show notes and
on here.
Yeah.
Or email at Uri at nealoninsulation.com. I'm always around. I'm always happy to chat, especially on this stuff. I mean, this is my favorite topic, talking about people and how to treat people right and pay people right and all of that.
Yeah, well, obviously, you're a homeowner in the market, but if you're a general contractor and you're building new projects and you're looking for other people first minded trades, then this is a good venue to be able to hear about the mindset of your organization, and we want to be able to tell that story and hopefully that be able to connect other like-minded construction oriented companies to be able to connect and collaborate together, because you guys do often, and and I think that goes a long ways, right? If you're going to partner with a GC, or you're going to partner with a trade, that hopefully they have a similar mindset there, because they're typically going to produce a much better result for everybody's end customer, right?
Yeah. And if you're a homeowner, I was talking more about collaborators, but if you're a homeowner, you can reach us at hello@nealoninsulation.com. If you're in Connecticut, we'd be more than happy to come estimate, make your home more energy efficient, comfortable, healthy, and durable. And if you're not in Connecticut, we are more than happy to answer any questions you have. We do that all the time. So reach out and for a call or for questions via email, and we will answer anything and do our best to help you, even virtually.
All right. Well, Uri, thank you so much for telling your story today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Fletch.
Thank you so much for listening to our People First Builders podcast. If you're a successful construction CEO and would like to tell your story on this program, please visit our podcast homepage, fletcherwimbush.com/peoplefirstbuilders, or check it out in the notes below. If you got something out of this interview and would like to share the episode on socials, we always appreciate that. Just take a quick screenshot with your phone, text it to a friend, or post it to the socials. If you know someone who might be a great guest, tag them on social and let them know. And don't forget, #PeopleFirstBuilders. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new content. To make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes, go ahead and hit subscribe on your favorite podcast channel. Your thumbs up and ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, fletcherwimbush.com, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.